Okay, welcome to another episode of Watercolor Instructions with me. So, I'm Sunil Kalbande. I aim to do simple watercolor instructions, easy and something people can try. That's my main goal. So today we're going to do this beautiful landscape, this puppy. We'll go through every step, different types of colors, how we're going to achieve different layers, and I will put in some tips and tricks for you to try and stick around, see how I do this one. Okay, so most of my drawing or my paintings I'm going to try to do is very easy to draw, or there's no much drawing at the moment. I'm just drawing a horizon and it's just a background, different zones, if you can think about. So there's the sky, there's a background, and there is a little bit of foreground. So I'm squeezing a little more white, a cleaner white. The one in the palette is a little dirty, so I'm just cleaning it a little more titanium white. So this one, what I'm trying to do is either a sunrise or a sunset, depending on what you want to think, behind the tree. So you can see using a yellow sky. So with a calligraphy brush, and I'm using a lot of white, and the brush still has a little more yellow ochre, so you get a very dull yellow ochre. And when you notice me painting, I'm not very particular about details. Our details are it's like, I think it's a wrong misconception. People are always trying to put in a lot of detail at the first stage. No, you don't need details. You're just putting in colors, what you call as a first wash. So very little water. I'm just pushing in more pigment, and I'm using a little more purple and blue. So that was ultramarine blue and a little bit of purple. So I'm just pushing the pigment in the paper. Still fairly less pigment, less water, and I'm pushing in a little more green with blue. It's more of a turquoise, and I'm taking some lavender. That would be a water body. So if you're thinking it doesn't look like a tree, or it doesn't look like anything what I've been talking about, stick around. So the first layer is a bit misleading, so you need to, I don't know, how do I tell? You need to have a vision in your mind. By saying vision, it sounds all woohoo. No, it's just you need to know, try to understand what goes in 2 or 3 layers. So most of the painting I do is 2 or 3 layers. So there's a drawing, there's a wash, there's a midtones, and there's a highlight. So 3 layers and a drawing. So any drawing I do, if you've watched any other videos of mine, I'm always trying to break it down into 4 steps. And because this is a beginner's painting, or at least keeping beginners in mind, there's not, and that's my kids, and they're very curious every time I'm painting. They always want to know what's going on. So, and I continue with the painting. So I'm using Indian yellow. So that's where the sun comes in. So a little bit of green. So when you, I don't know whether you can make out, this one has a small tint of green, and we're just dapping the paint, which will represent the leaves. You don't have to draw leaves remind or fill in the detail. So I'm using a little more greener as I'm coming outside. Okay, I'm gonna start increasing the intensity, so more viridian green. So before was sap green and yellow, now it's more viridian green. Adding a little more the background. And this is a medium, either a mop or in this case I'm using a calligraphy brush, so you don't need a fine brush. You could be easily doing this with a fat mop or a synthetic brush of any of your choice. Adding some highlights. You know, the beauty about this brush is you get a really fine point and you get cover larger area as well. Back to lavender, cobalt blue, same technique. So just leave the impression, and as it comes down I'm making it more solid. You might be wondering, this painting doesn't look like the intro. You gotta just have patience and then slowly build on the painting. Some paintings take a little longer, even though it's easy to understand how it needs to be done, but just the subject you pick is very important. If you are very new to the painting journey, the subject, what you pick, is more important than any technique or the materials. You want to pick something which is easily achievable. You want to build on that momentum and then slowly go from there. And I feel this one is again a painting which you can build on. This is, so far, there's nothing unique that a grown person or even a kid won't do. It's just dabbing colors. This is more like a Rembrandt, kind of just putting in colors. Everything ties together the moment I put in the branch and the trunk of the tree. So I'm making it a little more grey and green, so I'm just adding, and then also it's a reminder for me to put a little bit of tape on the palette. It's a bit, every time I use it, it kind of shakes. So when you look at it, the lighter and then the foreground, it's getting darker. So I'm dipping in some greys while it's still wet. So I'm starting to, that one is raw umber with a yellow ochre. So I'm going to build with lighter branches first, and then I'm going to add darker tones, just like I built the leaves. I just feel that it's not dry. I would rather dry it so that it doesn't bleed into the colors. You want to try to, especially with this painting, you want to try to keep the yellows and the greens separate. There are times when you want to blend in, but this is not one of those times. So burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and liver umber, and that would be the first layer or the first wash, which is doing the either have 2 or 3 layers. So you do the light, you do the medium, and you do the dark tones. Easy peasy. Just making sure you don't rush. Take your time. Have an idea in your head where you want to see the branches. So you're doing a broken branch so that it gives you an impression that few are in front and then few are behind the leaves. And you see just those 3 branches, it's tying the painting together. And I'm still keeping it very light. So I'm just adding a few more leaves. Slightly darker tone. So a little bit of ultramarine blue in the shadows of the leaves itself. It's from warm to cool, so it's always nice to mix a little warm to cooler colors. See how the colors slowly increase in intensity. And the lighter lights look more lighter because there's darker colors around them. Blue and green. Alpine foliage just below the tree. So I'm just switching to a smaller brush. So if you notice closely, the edges of the tree is still light brown or burnt sienna. So that gives, especially when you look at a tree in the sunlight, you notice it, the edges are a lot lighter than the dark. So that's what we're trying to achieve, is that glow effect. The trunk itself is glowing at the side. So we are covering it almost 95%, but we're just leaving a few edges with shimmer in the sunlight. And you'll be surprised how little pigment you need to cover a paper. So I'm just going and adding the darks. You might argue I could do the dark one and then add the light shade later. it might work, but it's easier as a principle or as a fundamental technique. You usually go from light to darks in watercolor. In oil, it's the other way around. So you go dark and then you apply light, but watercolor is the other way around. So I'm just trying to work out on the composition. If it's too empty, I'm adding a few more leaves, changing the tone, and then I tend to squint my eyes just to see how it looks. If you haven't tried, just try squinting at the painting so that it gives you a fuzzy edge, and then it tells you if it painting works or not. You don't need the details to look at how the light works. When I squint the eyes, I can see there's a light source, there's darks, or you can step back and then see the painting. So if you're too close to the painting, the best way to do it is just squint a little bit. I'm almost finishing. I'm just doing final touches. Thank you for being patient. I hope you're gonna try this painting. Don't be afraid to add a little texture, use your fingers, nails. At this stage I'm happy. I'm gonna just dry. Peel the painting, the fun bit. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. So with little effort and a little bit of ideas, the drawing, you don't need to have a drawing skill. You just need to make sure you understand the light to dark and simple horizons and simple structures. You could do multiple things. Imagine the same thing with adding a person, or if it's a landscape, we can add a mountain and other things. It will look really good. So, but these are building blocks. The more you practice, the better you're going to get it. I'm practicing. I'm not the best, but I hope you picked up some tips from this video. And if you like some videos, there are more videos like this on the top left-hand corner. Go check yourself and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And hit that like button. Till next time, thank you and keep watercoloring. Bye.